Today is Monday, Chav Daled Shvat, Tovshin Ayin Gimel. We are in Sefer HaMamar, Teres Menachem Sefer HaMamarim, Tovshin Aleph, Tovshin Yud Beis. In the middle of the Mamar Vayomer Yehonoson Mochor Chodesh of Shabbos Pashas Achrei, Mamar Vayomer Erev Chodesh Shiur Tovshin Yud Aleph, on page Ayin Aleph 71. At the tail end of Beis Vav, chapter 6. Here we are discussing the idea of tshuva as it relates to tzaddikim, which is something that Mashiach will introduce. And the question, of course, is what type of tshuva do tzaddikim need, for which we need Mashiach to introduce it to them. The Rebbe explained that in Ishapche, which of course a tzaddik, as the Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya, is one who has accomplished Ishapche. There are two levels in Ishapche. There's the lower level of Ishapche, the higher level. The lower level is the Ishapche, the transformation of the bad, the transformation of the animal soul that takes place as a result of a great revelation of the toiv, of the oir, of the positive. And then there is the transformation that takes place as a result of the nefesh habahamis itself, itself recognizing that it needs to change. The former is as a result of a force which is outside of the nefesh habahamis, the animal soul, the ra. The latter is as a result of the nefesh habahamis itself. The former is similar to the revelation of godliness that took place when the Jews left Egypt, where the dark also became light, but as a result of an outside force, Vayomer es halayla, an outside force that illuminated the dark. Whereas when Mashiach will come, the layla kayom yoyer, the darkness itself will become illuminated. So the Rebbe says, what is the difference between the two in more in spheres? So he says he said one vort yesterday, and we elaborated on this one vort that the Rebbe says over here. He says by Kriyas Yamsuf, when the sea was split, what was there was only the revelation of the ayin of the Yeshua Amiti. And if you remember, we learned that there are two perspectives. There's Das Tachtun and Das Elyon, right? The lower perspective and the higher perspective. The lower perspective is Lamata Yesh Ulamayla Ayin, that the Yesh is down here, because we perceive ourselves as existence, as we exist. And Lamayla Ayin, above is Ayin, is nothingness, meaning to say that we cannot relate to our source. It's so distant and removed from us. And the other perspective is Lamayla Yesh Lamata Ayin, that the true Yesh, the true existence is above Hashem, and what is below is Ayin, is insignificant. So when we speak about these two perspectives, of course, the Yesh from the perspective of the Mata, of the lower one, is completely different than the Yesh from the perspective of the one above, because the one below is referring to themselves, the Yesh Hanivra, the created Yesh, as we know it, right? And the one above, the perspective from above, when you say Yesh, you're referring to what? To the Hashem's very essence. Now, what about the Ayin? When we say the perspective of the one below is that Lamayla Ayin, and the perspective of the one above is that Lamata Ayin, are they referring to the same Ayin? And we explain that the answer is no. Because the Ayin of the Mata perspective, the Ayin from the perspective of below, you're talking about even the most direct and closest source of the Yesh down here, which relative to this Yesh would be considered as Ayin, because it's so distant and so unrelated. Whereas when you speak about the Ayin from above, we're talking about even the highest Ayin. Ayin, from the perspective of above, is anything which is outside or not the very essence of Hashem. which would even refer to, for example, Oyer HaKol Batzmusay, the Oyer Ein Sof, God's infinite light, as it is at its most original state, as it is even within himself, as the Kabbalah relates to that. Oyer HaKol Batzmusay. That's also ayin relative to what? To the Yeshua Amiti. So what revelation took place at Kriyas Yamsuf? So the Rebbe says, the phrase is, and that's what we are up to, Masha'enkim b'Kriyas Yamsuf, it is 7 lines from the end of chapter 6. The line begins with the word Hagilui, and we're up to Masha'enkim. Masha'enkim b'Kriyas Yamsuf. Not so by Kriyas Yamsuf, when the sea was split, Shehoyo Rak Hagili, what was revealed? Only Bechinas Ha'ayin Shel HaYeshua Amiti. Merely the ayin of the true Yesh. Meaning to say what? Not the very essence of Hashem himself, but rather what? The first point of revelation.
Why the first point?
Ha'ayin shel Yeshua Amiti.
But everything, even down here, is ayin part of it. The same ayin. From if you've got the Yeshua,
Ha'ayin shel Yeshua Amiti means that, as I just said, when we speak about Das Elyon, when we speak about the perspective of the Ma'ali Yesh Lamata Ayin, above is Yesh and below is Ayin.
Everything below is ayin.
Even what?
Even such a high level.
Correct. So in other words,
you talk about that level, that's high level.
not everything below is ayin. When you say L'mayla Yesh Lamata Ayin, it's insignificant. Of course, you're saying what? You want to bring out how unbelievably great the Yeshua Amiti is. That what? That even the first point of revelation is also ayin. So what was when you say L'mayla Yesh Lamata Ayin from the perspective of the one above? When you say the ayin, you're referring to the first point of revelation. So that highest level of revelation of Gilui, that's what the Yidden experienced at Kriyas Yamsuf. What will be when Mashiach will come? What's going to be revealed? The Yesh of the Yeshua Amiti. What does that mean? Hashem himself. This is also the innovation that Mashiach will introduce into tzaddikim. The concept of tshuva in tzaddikim. Mashiach, of course, speaking about la'asid lavei, as opposed to what? In the future time, as opposed to the revelations that took place at the splitting of the sea. Why? What's going on? The hinigam tzaddik. This is more or less a quote from Tanya. Even a tzaddik, oived Hashem ba'av rabbe b'tanugim, who serves God with tremendous love, the level of love b'tanugim, where his entire pleasure is what? Is godliness in God. Harehu b'bchinas yesh. He's still at the level of yesh. In other words, a tzaddik, even at the highest level, is still yesh. As the phrase goes, yesh misha oyev. There is someone who loves. He didn't expire. He didn't become Uis Metzias, Uis Yesh. It's not that he no longer exists. He exists. And who loves? He loves. So it's Yesh Mishayev. The Af, the Rebbe says something very interesting over here. The Af Shah Yesh is he Mashayev. For although, what is loving over here? Who's loving? Even the Yeshes of the Tzaddik is also loving Hashem. Nonetheless, he is still the Yesh. Meaning to say, that there is God and there's the tzaddik, there's a separate entity. Yes, an entity that is completely and totally consumed with love to Hashem, but nonetheless, a separate entity. So a tzaddik, try as he may, before Mashiach comes, cannot, transpose, I guess, his yeshes to the extent that it's totally a manifestation, totally and completely a manifestation of what? Of Hashem himself. What is the chiddush, the innovation that Mashiach will introduce by tzaddikim? Shegam tzaddikim, he will affect that even tzaddikim yavayu in tshuva. They will also come to the level of tshuva. Which means what? The tzaddik will feel his yeshes, this subtle ego, as it were, and therefore he will want to leave that sense of yeshes. In other words, Mashiach will reveal in the tzaddik, in the Yesh HaNivra, the Yesh Amiti, in the created Yesh, he will reveal the true Yesh, meaning Hashem himself said that there's nothing besides Hashem. So Mashiach will bring about by the tzaddik this revelation, the revelation of the Yesh Amiti and the Yesh HaNivra. That is the idea of tshuva that Mashiach introduces into tzaddikim. Now we come back to the question that we started in the beginning. Remember, the Rebbe began the Mamar on Mochor Chodesh. Yehonoson says to David, tomorrow is Rosh Chodesh, your place will be vacant, you will be remembered. He gave him that sign about the arrows, if you'll fire the arrows, and if the arrows are from between me and the stone, then there's a problem. If it's from you, from here and beyond, then you can go. And then Rebbe asked, what's the connection between, first of all, what's the meaning of all of it, and what's the connection between that and Rosh Chodesh? So now the Rebbe goes and explains all of this in the psukim of Yehonoson that he mentioned in the beginning. Chapter 7. Yehonoson Mochor Chodesh. Based on all the above, we will also understand that which Yehonoson said to David, tomorrow is Rosh Chodesh. Dihine. What is the idea of, the Rebbe is going to explain all of this in how this is relevant to us. What this, in other words, Yehonoson and David and Chodesh and so on and so forth, as it relates to every person. Dihine. Mochor Chodesh hu in Chidush haLavana. When you say tomorrow is Rosh Chodesh, right? In fact, this Shabbos is, I'm going to read this after this coming Shabbos, because this Shabbos, coming Shabbos Pashas Mishpatim, is in fact Shabbos and Borchim, and it's also Mochor Chodesh, I believe. Is that right? Yeah? So we're going to read this after. So when we read this after the Shabbos, you'll have what to think about. So, what's the idea of Rosh Chodesh? Hu inyan Chidush haLavana. The idea of Rosh Chodesh is when the moon becomes renewed. What's the significance of that? This is similar. This signifies the revelations of the time to come, Mashiach's times. We know that there is a connection between Kiddush Levana, the renewal of each month, of the moon each month, and the time to come. Because in the blessing that we say when we sanctify the moon every month, what do we say? We say to Hashem, may it be the will of Hashem, that the light of the moon should be like the light of the sun, like the light as it was during the 7 days of creation, as it was, as the moon was before it became diminished. When will that take place? When will the moon again shine in its fullness as it was originally? When Mashiach comes. So therefore, Rosh Chodesh is connected to what? To Mashiach. This is also the choice of words, the accurate choice of words. Tomorrow is Chodesh. Tomorrow is Rosh Chodesh. Even though, time-wise, that's exactly what it was. They were talking when? Out of Rosh Chodesh. And he said tomorrow is Rosh Chodesh. But embedded within this expression is something deeper. Tomorrow is Chodesh. Meaning to say, I'm talking about what? I'm talking about the future time. Al derech Mamar Vayomer, similar to that which our sages teach in the Talmud. Hayom la'aseisam u'lemochar l'kabel scharam. Hayom, today, the present is the time when we do things. When we have to serve Hashem and work and bring about what? The Geula, the redemption, Mashiach. U'lemochar, tomorrow, l'kabel scharam. That's when we get the reward. So when you say the expression mochar in the Talmud, in this context, what are we referring to? We're referring to the time of Mashiach. So when Yehonoson said to David, Mochor Chodesh, he says, I'm talking about what? I'm talking about the times of Mashiach. What does that mean? So he fleshes it out. Generally speaking, the service of man to God in this time, in our times before Mashiach comes, that's similar to the work, the service of Hashem, as it is signified in Erev Rosh Chodesh, before Rosh Chodesh, which means what? The time before Mashiach comes. Upon which are dependent all the revelations of the future time when Mashiach comes. Which is the idea of tomorrow is Chodesh. Tomorrow Mashiach is coming, so to speak. So that's the backdrop. We're talking about the time before Mashiach as it relates to the coming of Mashiach. This matter is also hinted upon in the detailed aspects that Yehonoson said to David. He said, if the arrows will be from you and here and you and beyond, I'm sorry, you and from you and before you, he said to the servant that was carrying his arrows, Yehonoson said, Ein davar, there's nothing wrong, Chai Hashem, God lives. And if the arrows are from you and beyond you, leich go, kishlach Hashem, because God has sent you. What does this mean? Firing arrows. through this bow is the general idea of Avedis Berurim, the service of man to Hashem. Kimevur Beisofis La Tera Er, as the Alter Rebbe explains in Tera Er. We'll flesh this out to Mitzvah tomorrow.